Hey, and welcome to the Winning Daily Show. We got an action-packed show full of all our college football picks. We'll drop the NFL picks late on Saturday night, probably Sunday morning. We'll have that full show for you, but we got a full slate of college football. No soccer this week. Looked at it a little bit, see if I could find any international things, but just didn't feel it. Didn't want to do all the research, so we're going to take a break from soccer. Next week, I'm sure we'll be loaded with soccer back in action with, full slate of both NFL and college football. We'll see if we can have a full day of picks for you then. Don't know how long that's going to take to find all those, but we'll figure it out. Nonetheless, let's get into college football. We're going to start out tonight with Kansas minus the 3.5 versus Illinois. I know this has jumped up. I liked it a little better at 2, but on the 3.5, I still think Kansas is the better football team. I know this quarterback's iffy to start, but he practiced all last week, and they set him out more out of precaution. He practiced it again all this week. I think he'll be a go, but nonetheless, even if he isn't a go, I think Kansas is the play here. I just think who's ever playing quarterback, both are pretty experienced. Both have started a lot of games. Now, Daniels is a lot better. He turns them into a fringe Big 12 contender. The other turns them into an okay Big 12 team. But I just like this Kansas team. I think they'll be able to, at home in a night game, run it up on Illinois. Didn't like what I saw from Illinois versus Toledo. I think Kansas will be able to run all over them and dominate this game. Next up in our straight bets, we're going James Madison minus the 6 versus Virginia. I started out earlier in the week really liking this one. I've sort of hesitated a little bit here and there on it, but I think James Madison goes in there. In-state rivalry game here, and I think James Madison beats a pretty poor Virginia team. Also, I don't think the Virginia starting quarterback's going to play. We're going to get a freshman quarterback in there who's really small. I don't think he'll be able to stand up to James Madison. Minus the 6 for James Madison. Another quarterback where it's sort of in question here. Tulane plus a 7.5. We're going to ride with it. Don't know if the quarterback's going to play. Probably will hold off on my bet until I find out if the quarterback's a full go. I definitely think he'll be a go here, but going to take the Tulane plus 7.5. I think that's built into the line a little bit, that the lines makers don't think he's going to be a go. So probably will not take it if the quarterback's not a go, but that's a wait-and-see thing. My play of the week this week, Appalachian State plus 19 versus UNC. Last year, this was a crazy game played into the 70s. I don't think this game will be played into the 70s, but I think North Carolina coming off a little bit of a short week. Good win versus South Carolina. I like Appalachian State here to cover this 20-point spread with UNC off the big win versus South Carolina here. So Appalachian State plus 19. SMU is playing Oklahoma. This game should be a shootout. Liked what I saw from SMU last week. Can't really judge off Oklahoma. Let's see if they can sort of contain SMU defensively, not Arkansas State. 16.5, too many points. Really like SMU here. Liberty minus 10 versus New Mexico State. Have not thought New Mexico State has played good football. Liberty actually impressed me last week with a 10-point win versus Bowling Green. I think this Bowling Green team is better than New Mexico State, and if Liberty can beat them by 10, I think they can beat New Mexico State by 10, certainly at home. Really like Liberty minus 10 as well. Next one we're going to go with. Little tricky here, but UConn plus the 3, I think, is good value versus Georgia State. We're going to try to play this UConn as long as we can. I know a lot of money's come in on UConn. Everybody's sort of on this, but like the UConn plus the 3 versus Georgia State. Tricky spot, though, on the road. We'll really see what UConn's made of this year early on. Arizona plus the 9.5 versus Mississippi State. Mississippi State looked pretty good last week. Arizona looked all right versus NAU. Hard to judge, both sort of gimme games. We'll see what this one has. Think Arizona can hang with Mississippi State. 9.5, too many points. We're going to make 2 first quarter bets, 2 as our straight bets. We're going Texas Tech first quarter plus the 1.5 minus 112. And we're going Baylor first quarter plus the half plus 100 on that one. All right, let's get to our totals. We got only 4 this week. Had a pretty good week last week on totals, but had a lot more. Notice they adjusted them pretty good. Everything seems a bit lower, so I can't play my unders as much as I played them last week. So I got a couple overs and a couple unders, balanced out. Only 4 this week on the totals. Vanderbilt, Wake Forest, 57.5. I'm going over 57.5 in that game. I know Wake likes to score. It seems like Vandy's going to play an offensive type game. I know this game starts a little early, which is sometimes a little weird for scoring, but I think this game gets played in the 30s and 40s here. So over the 57.5. Troy, Kansas State, 51.5. I definitely think these two teams are just going to play a smash mouth game. I don't even think there'll be enough time to score 51.5 points. I think the possessions will be limited. I think really, really good value there on the 51.5 on the under. One of the few ones I saw that still seemed a little bit bloated on that. So grab that 51.5. Eastern Michigan versus Minnesota. I'm going over 48.5 on that. I think Minnesota will be able to run on Eastern Michigan. You saw Jackson State or Howard last week versus Eastern Michigan, able to run on them. Eastern Michigan found enough plays. I think Minnesota probably get into the high 30s, 40s here. I think Eastern Michigan will be able to score a couple touchdowns. So I think that 48.5, they over-adjusted on that, and I think that'll go over into the 50s in that one. Lastly, San Diego State, UCLA, 48.5. I just think this will be a low scoring game, maybe low 20s. Probably low 20s to teens, I think, in this one. Definitely low possessions. It didn't look like UCLA wanted to be real aggressive last week. And you know San Diego State's never really aggressive. All right, how about some underdog plays here? We're going to do that Tulane. Once again, quarterback pending, plus 250 on Tulane there. Appalachian State, 8-1, like that value. SMU, plus 540 over Oklahoma. Really like the value in that one. Another one I like the value. I wanted to put in my straight bets, but I just don't know what UAB is. But I think the money line is the way to go here. And then I used UAB in one of my parlays you'll see later. So UAB plus 235 versus Georgia Southern. I think this UAB team might be a little better than people think. So you might want to grab it while the value's still high. UAB plus 235. We talked about Arizona in our straight bets. We're also going to put a money line underdog bet on them plus 300. Same thing here with San Diego State, plus 430 in that one. Good value on both Arizona, plus 300, San Diego State, plus 430. And then my favorite underdog play, Holy Cross, plus 385 versus Boston College. This Holy Cross team was really good last year in the subdivision, went to the championship game, probably has one of the best quarterbacks in the country, definitely one of the best quarterback in the subdivision. Think they'll be able to take Boston College here. Really like the value here. Holy Cross plus 385 versus Boston College. All right. We're going to do a couple of money line parlays here. We're going with Alabama and Colorado plus 133 for a unit play on that one. Like that one a lot. Think there's good value there. You can get the Colorado early, wait it out, then you get Bama money line. You don't have to go in that spread game. I've been sort of torturing myself all week whether to take that Alabama at home minus the 7. This way, if Colorado wins at noon, you have Alabama, you have money line, you have plus 133 on that one. Another two-leg money line parlay, Oklahoma State and Liberty, plus 108 on that one. Really think that's good value. And then my last two-leg money line parlay, Kansas tonight, James Madison at noon, plus 132 on that one. Then I have an underdog parlay. I was going to just use UConn here, but there wasn't much value in the UConn money line, so I thought I'd bump up the Washington State one here. So we made a two-leg money line underdog parlay, UConn, Washington State. That bumps it up to 605. So if you can get that, I think that's better value than just taking both of them separately. I know if you lose one, it probably hurts the value, but you weren't getting much value on UConn. You're better off just taking the spread there. So UConn, Washington State, underdog parlay on that, plus 605. All right, now let's get into our parlays. We hit one last week, so we got one Lost 3 in the profit margin here. We once again got 4 3-leg parlays. Our first one's going to be Troy plus 16.5 versus Kansas State. I mentioned I think this is going to be a smash mouth game with not a ton of possession, so I think that 16.5 pretty good value. San Diego State plus the 14 versus UCLA, similar to the Troy game, and UAB I think is a little bit better than people think, plus the 7 versus Georgia Southern. I know they go on the road. Next 3-leg parlay, Minnesota minus the 20.5 versus Eastern Michigan. Didn't like the way Eastern Michigan looked last week. Didn't love the way Minnesota looked either, for that matter. But I think they'll be able to bully and run all over Minnesota, and I didn't like the way Eastern Michigan's offense looked. Maybe it'll be better this week, but I don't know how much they'll be able to score on Minnesota, so like that 20.5. Rutgers minus 8.5 versus Temple. Temple just squeezed out that win versus Akron. I think Rutgers gets their second win on the season here. The 8.5's pretty big, but they cover that 6 pretty easy versus Northwestern. Northwestern probably in the same level as Temple, so bump 2 points, still pretty easy cover. Rutgers should have won that game 24-0. I think Temple will struggle to score, especially on the road here. And lastly, Oklahoma State minus 3 versus Arizona State. This Arizona State was pretty bad on Thursday night. We'll see if they can beat an Oklahoma State team that both me and Dynamite think is a little underrated here in the Big 12. Next up for our third 3-leg parlay, Virginia Tech minus 2.5 versus Purdue. I wanted to take this one straight too, but it's just going to be a wait and see and watch and see how Virginia Tech plays. Iowa State plus the 3.5 versus Iowa. Iowa State pretty impressive last week. Iowa was sort of blah. The quarterbacks also came. McNamara is carrying a little bit of an injury, but I think he'll be a go. But I think this will be a tough game for Iowa to go Iowa State in Ames. Plus the 3.5, like the value there. And Washington State plus the 6 versus Wisconsin in that 3-leg parlay. And then our last 3-leg parlay, it's essentially 3 teams I don't know what to do with. So take the spread because you like the spread, but see what they have to go before you're real aggressive and making more straight bets on them for the rest of the year. Boise State plus the 3.5. At home versus UCF. I know UCF played well last week. Boise State did not at Washington. But if Boise's getting plus at home, which never happens, you got to take that or at least put in something. Southern Miss plus 33.5 versus Florida State. I know everybody's on Florida State, but this seems to have gotten a little bloated, and I think Southern Miss, while not great, should be able to cover this 33.5. And lastly, Cal plus 6.5 versus Auburn. Sort of unknowns on both sides of this. Can't really judge anything from Auburn. Pretty impressive what Cal did last week. Scored 58 points versus North Texas, but how good is North Texas? We'll find that out this week. How good is Cal? If Cal's capable of scoring that kind of points, they definitely will give Auburn a little bit of a game, so that plus 6.5 is pretty good value. All right, that's all we got this week in college football. Be on the lookout Saturday night, probably more Sunday likely for our NFL picks from both me and Dynamite David. More action coming to you. Be in the know to win that dough. Like, subscribe, watch all our shows on GLN TV on YouTube or wherever you download your podcast. That's our show, and we're out.